Hey, we've got just another minute or so that we'll let people get on the line, but just letting people know that you can hear us. If for some reason you can't, feel free to, well, you wouldn't be able to tell me that you can't hear me. But welcome anyway. And that's recording. I got someone who said I can hear you on the phone. Yay. So Wendy, I think we've got, it looks like about 19 people on the line. Okay. Anytime you're ready to begin.
You want to start or wait another minute?
You start when you're ready.
Okay, let's just give it another minute because people are probably trying to get on. Okay, so shall we get started?
Hooray!
All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's so exciting to have you on board today for this webinar. My name is Wendy Hamilton, and I'm the School Health Program Manager for the Division of Public Health in the section of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. Today, Lauren Kelsey and I will be talking about Alaska's Physical Activity in Schools Law. You may also know this law by the name SB 200, and it is a law that requires 54 minutes of physical activity in every school day for grades kindergarten through 8th. Next slide. So one computer audio option is to listen through their computer speakers, but just realize unless you have a microphone, you will not be heard if you speak. Next slide. What we prefer you do is use the telephone audio option if you can, and that number you should have received when you registered for today's session. So the access code is on your screen right now. Thank you. And when you do call in, please keep your phone on mute. If you have any technical difficulties, next slide, thank you. Please use the question box and let us know how we can help you, if you need the phone number again or if you're having any other technical difficulties.
And Wendy, can I jump in one thing there?
You bet.
If you don't see a question box, you need to maximize your screen and you should see a little red arrow in the top of your corner that can add in the question box.
Thanks, Lauren.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're also going to ask that you use the question box today for any questions that you have. We are also asking that you hold all your questions about the presentation until the end. And then at the end, we'll open it up for questions. You can type your question into the question box and hit send. We have also numbered all the slides so that if you like, you can jot down the slide number that you have a question about to refer to it later. So in today's webinar, I'm going to review why this law is important, the creation of the law, the main provisions of the law, options for implementation, and frequently asked questions. Then Lauren will speak about examples from Alaskan school districts and the role of teachers, parents, and community members. Next slide.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Why this law is important. Schools are in a unique position to have tremendous influence on the lives of young people. Children and adolescents spend the majority of their time in schools, and schools are where young people are prepared to be well-rounded, healthy, productive, and successful adults. Next slide. We know that being physically active has many benefits for youth, such as fewer behavioral problems, lower absenteeism, higher graduation rates, and higher test scores. We also know that healthy youth grow into healthy adults. Healthy youth avoid the risk of obesity-related factors such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And healthy youth grow into healthy adults. Next slide. We also know that recess improves classroom behavior and that brief in-classroom activities help students focus on their lessons. Adults start to lose focus after about 20 minutes, and for students, it's an even shorter attention span. Physical activity like recess or in-classroom activities increase the student's ability to focus. This is a win-win for teachers and students. Physical activity creates better classroom behavior and increased focus on the lessons. Next slide. This slide shows how physical activity increases blood flow to the brain. The slide on the left shows a quiet brain with mostly blue coloration. The slide on the right shows the brain after 20 minutes of walking, with the orange and yellow areas indicating increased blood flow. This particular study found students tested higher in reading, spelling, and math after 20 minutes of walking. Next slide. So a common objection to using school time for physical activity is the belief that any time in school not spent on core subjects impedes academic success. Actually, the opposite is true. Increasing time for physical education or physical activity does not harm academic performance. This is a very important core message when we discuss the importance of physical activity in school. We also believe that all students deserve the opportunity to be healthy and successful. Next slide. So briefly, the creation of the law, it was introduced in February 2016, originally as Senate Bill 200. It was passed in April of 2016 and transferred to the governor, signed on July 16th, and became active and implemented 90 days later. 90 days later being October 16th. So it's been an active law since October 16th of last year. Now, the reason I find this timeline so interesting is that it shows how popular the bill was. There was very little discussion compared to most legislation. Many bills take several months or years to get passed. This bill was well supported. There was general agreement that physical activity for students is important. Like motherhood and apple pie, everybody feels good about physical activity. Next slide. So I'm actually going to read this because this is from the actual law, and then we'll break it down a little bit. So a school district shall establish guidelines to provide opportunities during each full school day for students in grades kindergarten through 8 for a minimum of 90% of the daily amount of physical activity recommended for children and adolescents in the physical activity guidelines by the Centers for Disease Control. Next slide. It also states the time provided for physical activity under this subsection may include physical education classes and opportunities for unstructured physical activity, such as recess. Physical education and recess are more common at elementary schools, so it will be easier in those schools to meet the requirements of the law. If a school had 2 20-minute recess periods a day, they would just need another 14 minutes to meet the 54 minutes. Many people think that elementary schools have physical education every day, but they don't. More common in elementary is a 30-minute PE class 3 times a week. Next slide. So again, to review the main provisions, shall provide opportunities during the school day for the recommended 90% of 60 minutes a day for 54 minutes a day, and it may include PE, unstructured physical activity, such as recess, and it covers grades elementary through 8th grade, which is all of elementary and part of middle school. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about some resources that we've created to help people understand and implement the law. Next slide. This is the main page of our school health program's website. On the left-hand navigation bar, you'll see the link to the physical activity in schools law. This is where you can find the information and resources that we're going to now look at. Next slide. So options for implementation, again, can include physical education and recess and unstructured physical activities such as in-classroom activities and school-wide activities. Next slide. We've created a document listed here, options for meeting the requirements of the law. Next slide. And here's an example from this document. There are options in this document for both elementary and middle schools. This is one that includes a morning recess, a 30-minute PE class, and then just 4 minutes of a school-wide activity or in-classroom activity to meet the 54 minutes. Next slide. This is another option for elementary, a fill-in-your-own option. This provides a tremendous amount of flexibility and shows that it really can be quite easy to meet those 54 minutes a day. Next slide. Frequently asked questions. So yes, it is every school day, although on half days or early release days, it doesn't count. And yes, it does need to be during the school day. We love to hear about before and after school activity programs. However, time spent in those activities are not included in the 54 minutes a day. Many people want to know where will the new provisions be written. All districts have policy manuals. So districts may adopt a new policy that's specifically about the new law, or they can incorporate the language into their existing wellness policy, which is often in the section of the manual called Student Nutrition and Physical Activity. Next slide. Just as a sidebar here, if you haven't heard of a wellness policy, we have a page on the school health website that describes wellness policies. It is a written document in the district policy manual that contains certain nutrition and physical activity guidelines. The USDA states that any school district that receives federal lunch money must have a wellness policy, and it must be kept up to date. Next slide. Again, on our website, on the wellness policy page, is the State of Alaska Gold Standard. It includes all the recent USDA school nutrition updates and the language needed for the implementation of the physical activities in school law. It's already embedded in this gold standard. Also, the Association for Alaska School Boards just published their yearly policy updates. And their updated wellness policy also includes all the language that we have addressing this law and USDA updates. If you have any questions about wellness policies, please contact Lauren or myself. Next slide. Who's going to monitor this? Well, this is a designation done by each district. A district wellness committee is also responsible for the updating of the wellness policy. Now, because school districts that get federal lunch money get that money from the Child Nutrition Program, every 3 years, the State Child Nutrition Program reviews wellness policies as part of their 3-year yearly review process. And 54 minutes, we often get this question, why not 60? Districts can provide opportunities for the full 60 minutes, but only 54 are required. Next slide. What about exemptions for medical reasons? Just as it is now, exemptions can be made for a student if they're unable to participate. Districts already have to comply with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act to provide inclusive PE for students with disabilities. And again, just as it is now, exemptions can be made due to unexpected inclement weather. However, districts should already have policies in place that address indoor recess during inclement weather. Usually an alternative in the gym, in the cafeteria, or even in classrooms. Next slide. What are in-classroom activities? Well, it's any activity done in the classroom during a regular class period. In-classroom activities, again, are a great way to refresh the student's mind and get them more focused on the lessons. And lessons can be integrated into physical activity and physical activity into the lessons. An activity can be as short as 2 to 3 minutes. Next slide. So this is a shot of our physical activity in schools law page, and here the red arrow is pointing to another document we've created, resources for in-classroom physical activity. Also, SHAPE Alaska, which is the Society for Health and Physical Education, Alaska website, also includes another resource document, and any online search will produce plenty of results about in-classroom activities. Next slide. And what are school-wide activities? These are activities where all students participate in activity at the same time, like a movement video that's displayed in every classroom, a mileage walk where all students walk a certain route in the hallways for a certain time and distance, or a student or teacher-led activity over the school loudspeaker. Now, Lauren Kelsey will talk about putting the law into action.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. So yes, this is Lauren, and I am the School Partnership Coordinator with the Alaska Obesity Prevention and Control Program. I work closely with Wendy, but she's based down in Juneau, and I'm up in Anchorage. And for these just next couple of minutes before we open it up to some Q&A, I'd like to spotlight some examples of Alaskan school districts that are already doing great work putting this law into action, and then highlight the important role of parents, teachers, community members, basically all of you guys on the line, of what you can do to help with implementing this law. So this first thing I would like to start with is a spotlight on Seward. This is one of our Play Every Day blog success stories, which, just a quick aside, there's the URL at the bottom, playeveryday@alaska.gov. If you haven't yet subscribed to get these announcements, they come once or twice a month, just a really neat story of some Alaska program that's either supporting physical activity or nutrition. Really great information, so we do recommend people sign up for that. But here's a picture on the screen here is Mark Fraud, one of our PE teachers based out of Seward. If anyone's a friend of Mark Fraud, you can give him a shout out in the question box. And he has one of our classic success stories where at Seward Elementary for several years now, he worked to incorporate these 54 minutes a day using both a morning and a lunch recess, and then also by having daily PE for all students at Seward Elementary. And something I like to focus on this is that it wasn't something that just came easily. He had to overcome some common barriers that we hear from people when they say, well, we just don't have space, we don't have time. He worked with classroom teachers to get buy-in, where a couple of classes ended up doing lunch in the classroom so he could have added time in the gym because it was a gym/lunchroom. And he also worked with doing some of his classes back to back instead of having a break between every class. But with those kind of creative ways, he was able to make it that every kid was getting daily PE. Really fantastic work down there. This second spotlight here is focused on recess in Sitka. We know daily recess is really key to getting kids moving throughout the day, and there's a lot of support out there on the benefits of recess to learning and classroom behavior. So this story focused on Sitka, where they partnered with a bullying prevention grant to train staff and students on active cooperative playground games, which both increased their physical activity during the recess time and decreased their conflicts and behavioral referrals. Another great creative success story. This third highlight was featured in our blog the week that the law went into effect in October, and it's of North Slope schools. The superintendent of North Slope sent out an email to all of his principals and said, hey, we see there's this new law. How are you guys planning on making it happen? And a few of the schools already had daily PE, daily recess, and they said, we're meeting this already. No changes need to be made. But some of the schools that did need to make tweaks had some nice creative ways of doing it. The Barrow schools, K through 8, started to have their teachers share sample lesson plans that showed where they were fitting in physical activity during the school day. They used the brain gym as their kind of approved activity that they wanted teachers to use. And after they were able to just show that they were fitting it into their daily lesson plans, they didn't have to really do a lot more follow-up after that. The other one that was kind of fun, Anatubik Pass, showed that they included some dancing during their school-wide opening time when they were doing the announcements and things like that. So just another creative way of getting kids up and moving through the day. And this last one I wanted to spotlight was Matsu, which isn't one of our blogs, but I think it touches on two things. They do a similar program to that dancing. They have quite a few of their elementary schools participate in something called the Morning Movers, where for the first 10 minutes of every day they're walking either on a track or in the hallway. And that's just something that starts their day off right, gets the kids ready and into the classroom ready to learn. But they also have done, with partnering with some other initiatives, they've recognized that you can't always assume that all teachers are just comfortable incorporating active learning strategies in their classroom and know what to do. So they've done quite a bit of teacher training on cooperative learning strategies with focusing on just ways to get kids active. This was one simple example of the stand up, hand up, pair up, where when the teacher says go, everyone stands up, finds a partner with a high five, waits for a minute for the next instruction. Not hard, nothing brain science, but just sometimes giving tools to teachers so they can incorporate these new active strategies. So the last thing I wanted to touch in on again before we move to questions is just a little bit about what anyone on the call here can do to help implement this law. We know that laws don't just implement themselves, and a good law or a good school policy is really only as good as it's communicated with the public. You can have something that's amazing that says we're going to do all these things, but if no one knows about it, it's not going to help the kids. So some questions. We're 6 months into this law, and we've heard from quite a few people that they actually hadn't heard of it. It came out mid-October, which is kind of an awkward time. The school calendars were already going. So we're really trying to get people, increase awareness so they can start the next year off strong. So those of you, whoever's on the call, we ask you to take it upon yourself to ask how the law is being implemented in your school. Don't be afraid to be a point person to bring this up at your district. We also request that you assert that physical activity in schools is important to you and will benefit students' health and learning. A lot of the information Wendy shared earlier can support that, but there's a lot of great information if anyone wants more resources on saying, hey, this is a good idea and a win-win for our students. Then we request or suggest that you offer to be part of the solution. If you're a staff member, you can model a physical activity energizers in one of your staff meetings. We know people are way more likely to actually do it in their class if they've had to do it themselves. I don't know if we have any Go Noodlers on the line, but I have done the cuckoo kangaroo popsicle with our all staff. They go over fairly well. If you're a volunteer, you can actually lead these physical activities to give teachers a break, or send links to the teachers of, hey, this is my kid's favorite physical activity break, so the teachers aren't having to search through all the different resources. You can help them out in those ways. And the last thing I'd request is that you share your successes, share your stories, what's working for you, either with ourselves, and we can try to host them on the Play Everyday blog, or within your own community on the media. Media really likes to see kids being active. It's a pretty perky thing to see, but it's not just to toot your own horn. It's to spread the word to other districts that physical activity in schools is important, that there's a law, that schools are working to make it happen, and we really hope we can encourage you guys to all be champions across the state in helping to spread the word on this. So at this point, we would like to open it up as time to your questions. I am fairly new to the webinar technique, but I think if you raise your hand, I might be able to unmute your phone. Otherwise, I'd love it if people type things into the question box. And you can feel free to contact us outside of this as well. There's several of the resources Mandy mentioned are here in the attachment box, and we will be sending out these slides to anyone who registered within the next couple of days as well. So.
And we are also willing to stay on the line longer if needed.
Oh yeah, we have the line at least until 4:30 if there's so many burning questions on what can I do, or how awesome is this, or wow, I wish I could join your team. Those are some options. Oh, okay. I am getting one question in here, which is a great one. It's, how is this law connected with the Healthy Futures program? And so for those of you guys who don't know, there's the Healthy Futures Challenge is, we partner with the Obesity Prevention Program to promote this across the state, but it's the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame, a challenge of elementary age students to get 60 minutes a day, at least 15 days a week, and then they get a prize. So Healthy Futures has traditionally been kind of geared towards parents and outside of school, but if a school was using those Healthy Futures logs to track kids' daily physical activity through the day, they would hit those 15 days easy and then be able to get the prize. It's 2 challenges, a spring and a fall, so only 6 months of the school year, but a kind of a neat synergy could take place between those 2 programs if someone wanted to make that happen. Google Healthy Futures if you want to find out more. Let's see, anyone else? Wendy, do you have any questions for me? I'll wait for just a second in case there's anyone else. And maybe because I have problems with silence. One thing I love, thank you, Wendy, for highlighting our model wellness policy. And we really do think the role of policy, of having something about meeting these minimum minutes in a school policy, is a strength. But we do highly encourage people to use that model policy and make it real for you. We find that schools are way more likely to actually implement a policy if they've gone through and said, this is doable, oh, this might not be, and you can work with Wendy or myself to make sure that all the legally required elements are in there, but to customize a wellness policy to meet the student nutrition and physical activities goals of your own district is always our recommendation. And we're coming on to 4 o'clock. I can let there be some silence. So someone wrote, so you'll be sending us the PowerPoint? And yes, we will. Thank you.
And also, as Lauren said, if you open up your control box on the right-hand side, you will see, you can download the PowerPoint right now. Is that up there right now, Lauren? No, I don't see it. But there are 3 other resources.
Gosh. Sorry. More people are asking questions. I'm sorry. I didn't have it open to anyone. Do I have any idea how many school districts are working towards implementation next year? You know, it tends to be just ones who've asked questions about it. So I think that we're continuing to get the word out, but I don't have like a specific number of districts. Wendy, would you have anything to add to that?
No, we don't really have a way of tracking that, no.
And then I have one that says, in Fairbanks School District, our superintendent is not actively monitoring or promoting this law. What can be done if the district isn't taking the lead with principals on this? It's a common thing that we hear, and I think it tends to be kind of where we came together of saying, try not to be afraid to be the person who brings this up. A lot of times laws get focused on if there is an active parent group or someone who is asking about it and caring about it. It's not necessarily that the superintendent doesn't care about physical activity in schools. There might just have a lot of other things they're tracking. So we encourage you to don't try to step around the superintendent, go speak to them directly, but ask also principals, what can we do at our school site to make sure we're meeting this? And we can help brainstorm ideas with you if you want to connect with us on our own too. Wendy, would you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you've got it covered. Thank you.
Oh, and Dorothy Orr had a great suggestion saying we should probably promote our School Health and Wellness Institute as a place to learn more about physical activity in the law. We do have an annual training in Anchorage. It's over the Halloween weekend, 30th of October through, not the weekend, through November 1st this year. And Wendy, is it up on the website, the registration information yet?
Yeah, registration is not open. However, on our school health web pages, there is a page all its own on the School Health and Wellness Institute that does tell the dates. And we're meeting right now, working on the agenda. But yes, it'll be in Anchorage at the BP Energy Center, Monday through Wednesday, October 30th through November 1st. This will be our 12th annual one. There's always plenty of sessions, and yes, Lauren and I will be speaking again about this law.
We also, if you're calling from abroad, we do success story panels in which it's only a 15-minute little blurb about something you've been doing at your district, and it gives you a travel scholarship to come. So we do encourage people to apply for that opportunity as well. And there's scholarships for normal people too.
Yes, lots of scholarships available.
Normal people.
Just email me and I can tell you more.
And that's Wendy Hamilton at alaska.gov. Okay. I think I got Oh my gosh, someone else just typed that. Yep, someone said we are getting success stories. Yes, they show up. Good. Yay. I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself. I appreciate everyone's time, and we will remain on the line for the next couple of minutes. But if anyone is ready to go, you're free to have the rest of a great day. Get out and play.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Wendy.
You getting any more questions, Lauren?
I'm not. It looks like there's 6 of us still on the line, but I think we're probably
Almost out, huh?
almost out. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Thanks, everyone.